How much money do you think you need to be rich? Well, what if I told you the number you're thinking of is completely wrong, and I can prove it with data? A brand new study just came out, the Charles Schwab Modern Wealth Survey 2025. It was conducted in the US to find out how much money people think they need to feel rich and what wealth really means to them. I went through the entire report this past weekend, and honestly, some of the numbers shocked me. That's why I decided to bring the findings here for you. And please, as always, I will politely ask you to subscribe to this channel, which is 100% free and has good content without wanting to sound arrogant here. So before anything, here's the summary of this video. First, how much do people think they need to be considered rich? Second, why that number is wrong and it really is. Third, what actually makes people feel rich? And fourth, what you really need to do to become rich. So first, how much do people think they need to be considered rich? In the United States, according to the Charles Schwab survey, the average American believes they need $2.3 million to feel rich and about $839,000 to feel comfortable. And here's a question for you. Do you think Americans are overestimating, or is that close to the number you had in mind? Drop it in the comments before we move on. The survey is focused on the US, so we don't get data for other countries. But remember those numbers, 2.3 million to be rich and 839,000 to be comfortable. We're going to come back to them in a second, because the real question is, if that's what people think they need, what does it actually take to feel rich? Actually, why is this number completely wrong? Let me make one thing clear. I'm not saying the Charles Schwab study is wrong. What's wrong is people's perception of wealth. There's a big difference between what people think wealth is and what it actually looks like. Let me give you an example. According to the survey, the average American believes you need $2.3 million to be rich. But here's my question. How much net worth do you really need to be in the top 10% of Americans? The answer is about $1.9 million. And to be in the top 1%, you'd need around $13.7 million. So Americans are actually underestimating. Look at the numbers side by side. People think being rich means having $2.3 million, but the top 10% already average $1.9 million, and the top 1% a staggering $13.7 million, 6 times higher. That means the perception of wealth is completely off. Most people imagine rich as a number that barely gets you into the top 10%, but the real ultra-wealthy are playing in a whole different league. And here's the twist. This isn't just about money. The Schwab study also revealed that wealth isn't only defined by net worth. Many Americans say feeling rich is about freedom, security, and control of their time, not just the size of their bank account. So yes, people misjudge what rich looks like financially, but even more important, they often forget that true wealth goes beyond money. And that brings us to the third part of our video, what actually makes people feel rich? Charles Schwab asked survey participants a simple question. What does being rich mean to you? Yes, money was one of the top answers. About 44% of people said that being rich meant having a certain amount of money. But there was one answer that came up even more often: happiness. Most people said being rich means being happy. Now, people often ask me if money can buy happiness. I don't think it's that straightforward. Money doesn't guarantee happiness, but it can buy happiness, at least for many of the dreams people want to achieve. And if you look at the study, Americans seem to agree. Around 8 out of 10 say they feel rich in relationships, happiness, and free time. But less than half feel rich when it comes to money itself. So financial success does matter, but well-being, health, and family are just as valuable, if not more, in people's definition of wealth. The truth is, things like free time, mental health, and physical health often can be improved with money. Not always, but in many cases. So while money doesn't directly buy happiness, it does buy ease, and ease increases your chances of being happy. This shows up in another study on happiness. Take a look at the countries ranked as the happiest in the world. Finland is only 48th in global GDP. Denmark is 36th. Iceland is way down at 108th. Israel is 29th. The Netherlands is 19th. Notice something? None of the happiest countries are among the very richest. A striking example is Kosovo, one of the happiest countries, yet ranked 144th in GDP. Of course, money helps, but it's clearly not the only thing that drives happiness. And now we reach the fourth and final part of today's video. What do you actually need to do to become rich? The answer is surprisingly simple, and it's right there in the Schwab study. They found that Americans who save, invest, and have a financial plan are far more optimistic about their ability to achieve wealth. In plain English, want to be rich? Save, invest, plan. That's it. When asked if they already consider themselves financially rich, here's what the survey found. 11% of Americans say they're rich today. Among investors, that number jumps to 17%. And among those with a real financial plan, it jumps jumps again to 25%. In other words, 1 in 4 Americans with a financial plan already feel rich. When it comes to financial comfort, the same pattern shows up. Only 20% feel comfortable today, but 31% of investors do, and 39% of those with a solid plan say they're financially comfortable. So in the end, this research makes one thing very clear. Wealth is more about behavior than a specific number. It's not just how much you need, it's what you do. Saving, investing, and sticking to a consistent plan. Now tell me in the comments, what do you think the number is? How much money does someone really need to be considered rich? That's it for today. See you next time.